Hi, welcome to this tutorial. We are going to be painting with values, otherwise known as painting with light and shadow. So the exercise this time is a sphere, and it's going to be a source of light, a background, a surface, and casting shadows, things like that. Very important concepts when you want to start painting. You can use Affinity Designer in the Pixel Persona, or you can use Affinity Photo, doesn't really matter, the principles are the same. So if you want to take the challenge, just join us in the Facebook group. Special kiss for the people in there, you're great. And let's start. Okay, so the first thing we have here, it's a canvas with a neutral color somewhere along these lines, gray, not too dark, not too light, because we want volume in our sphere and we're gonna have highlights and shadows, so we want some contrast. We may tweak it at the end, but we want to start with something like this. Next thing is going to be grabbing our ellipse tool here. Pressing Shift, we're gonna drag over the canvas and we're gonna place it somewhere in the canvas, thinking that the light is gonna come from here, so the cast shadow is gonna come around here, so you need some space. And I'm saying this because, well, if we come here and pressing Command in our keyboard and hitting over the shape itself, we are going to have the selection. Well, if we move it, that's not what we want. So make sure that you position it in the right place. And the next thing is going to be come into view. And we don't want to show the pixel selection. And this is the reason why I'm doing this in Affinity Photo, because in Affinity Designer that cannot be hidden. And it's a bit of a pain. Okay, so the next thing is going to be selecting our brush from the basic set of brushes you will find in both Affinity Photo and Affinity Designer. This round light brush, I think it's fine. This other one is the same but with some tweaks on it. Let's just try with this one. I'm gonna put this aside because I won't change it. So, I want to show you the settings just in case. I didn't touch anything, so as long as I remember, so this is more or less what you will find in it. So I'm gonna put this aside and I'm going to select my brush tool. I'm gonna make sure my opacity is down to something like 19, 20, 15, something like that, not lower than that. And my flow is also down to 15 or so. And now I'm going to start painting. The first thing I want to do is set lights and shadows. So I'm gonna make my brush bigger and I'm going to block a bit lights and shadows, as I said. There is this crescent that it's interesting to talk about. It gives the whole sphere a shape, and this is the way you want to paint, making your brush follow the shape of the sphere. This very light. I'm gonna leave this quite light because there is light that is reflected from the ground floor, okay? So you want that much lighter than this area here, which is the area where the light is not gonna hit at all. So you can see we're painting with an opacity of 19. I don't know if I mentioned it, but the hardness has to be down to 0. Flow 15. Every time you pass, you add paint. And that is nice, but be careful because you don't want to be giving it any texture, and sometimes that's what happens. So you can play with both of opacity and the color wheel, but be aware of that. Now I'm gonna go down here. I'm gonna try to blend that area in such a way that it looks natural, like so. I'm gonna make this smaller. You don't want your brush to be gigantic because you want to be subtle, so also that. Okay, crescent is there and I want it to be there. Now back again to this color here. I'm gonna keep maybe even darker. I'm gonna mark my shadow a bit more just to help my eye, something like this. super softly. Something like in there, not too bad. Now back to this color here. Now maybe I don't even need to paint much of my highlight if I'm painting this in a color that is gray and not too white. Probably I will give it just a there so everything is more clear. But basically you start to see where the highlight is placed in your sphere, like there, not too bad. I'm gonna make it smaller, so okay, I'm gonna just again help my eye, giving it some touches there. That's the highlight, somewhere like there. Okay, good. Now the edges also need to be slightly highlighted because the light works on them. Even up there the light reaches. I'm gonna leave it like that. Now also here maybe I want to give it a little bit of a highlight. We'll blend them later, but yeah. Try not to be too rough, like making a, you know, a circle there, like just some style. Okay, that's too much style, I think. But something like that, not bad. Okay, maybe now it's a good moment, yeah, to use them smudge tool, but you have to be really careful. Put the strength really low. And maybe like this, you can just blend a bit your edge, but really don't abuse this tool because it's really gonna hurt your final results. So just try to avoid it as much as you can. I think that's way too much, so probably I'm gonna grab this color here and back to my brush tool. I'm gonna zoom in a bit. I'm gonna paint in there, and I'm going to, I'm gonna expand it a bit. I go jumping from here and there, so I mean that's the way it works because it helps me to more or less see where everything is at, or just choose your best way. I'm gonna put this lighter and I'm gonna just pass over here. I think that was too much, so I'm gonna cover it a bit, but carefully because you want it to follow the gradients. Okay. That will be looking better later on when we work on the edges. Now a little bit of reflected light also in the base, and maybe even also here getting in a bit into the shadow there. I don't really like this area here. I've done something, that's better. Okay, so Now, probably what I need to do, wow, is making this a little bit darker here. Shh, don't like that. Blend, 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 blend until you faint. Yo, crescent, crescent. Now I'm gonna make this darker, so the contrast is bigger. And now I'm gonna grab my smudge tool, which is forbidden, but I'm gonna help myself with it. Okay, so not being perfect, far from perfect, because you know it takes a bit of time. It's not looking too bad. Now we're going to do the floor. We will come back to the sphere later on, but we're going to start talking about the surface. Okay, so for the floor, remember we cannot paint outside because we have the pixel selection here, so we have to get rid of it. For that, we're going to press Command D, and yeah, we're free. So we're going to create a layer below, actually below this one. So now, making sure we're there, we're going to paint the cast shadow, something like this, below the ball or the sphere, like that. It doesn't really matter what is the shape you give it, because you can just tweak it later. So now we're going to start talking a bit about the shadow itself. This area here is called the cast shadow, and it's very dark. The light doesn't hit on it. And here below is the part of the cast shadow that is the darkest. It's called occlusion shadow. So right below we will paint very dark. This is where the object and the floor touch. But around it, it doesn't need to, because there's some light coming from here, okay? So what I usually do is just go and paint like this. I'm gonna make it even a bit darker. Dark in there, dark in there. There is reflection in this area here from the sphere and the floor itself and the surroundings. So let's do something like this. Okay. Now I can just go with what is it? The eraser tool. Hardness down to 0. This also quite low. And let's start just cutting off what we don't want. Also, we have to talk about edges, the edges of this shadow. As they go farther apart from the sphere, they're going to be blurred out. They're going to be not so defined. And it's going to be the same for the sphere itself, or for every object you draw. When it's far from the point of light or from the viewer, it's gonna be not so crispy, not so opaque, not so defined, okay? So let's keep on working in this. Probably I wanna grab this and I want to work a bit more here. I mean, this has to be well done in the sense that you don't want to make your sphere be flying, or maybe you do. But that was not the idea, so that's not good. I can also just work like this until I find my place in the world. And somewhere like there. It's to give you the feeling that it's really touching the ground plane. So now This one here, probably I don't want it. I want it to cut sharp in there. That's more or less it. The important things are, for example, right now here, this is also reflecting light on the floor. So we're gonna need to just drop, yeah, that's a good highlight. I'm gonna work it in a different layer. And you wanna do something like this. Yeah, that's it. Okay. Okay, I think I like it. Okay, so all these things are very important. I, however, don't feel my ball is completely seated on the ground, so I'm gonna have to work a little bit more the shadow below it. Let's just go with this, and probably because the change between this area here and this area here is maybe too dramatic, that's not looking that good, so I'm gonna have to work that. So now what I'm going to be doing is talking about the edges on the sphere. As I said, the farther they are, the less edgy or the less defined they are. So what I'm going to be doing is this smudge tool, I'm gonna make it real small. Just in case I'm gonna make it a copy, I'm gonna hide these two. I'll just leave them there. It's for safety, just in case. And I'm going to group these two and rasterize them. And now I'm going to work with the smudge tool here, with it really down in strength. I'm gonna get closer so I can see a little bit better what I'm doing. So I'm working on the edges so it looks a little bit more like a sphere and not like a shape, a 2D shape, this 2D shape that it is. Actually, you can see here how it looks better now. A little bit here too. And also be careful because this smudge tool is also working on the color itself now, okay? Okay, so, well, I could work more on this, but you understand the idea, I'm sure now. Like so. Very good, not too bad. Well, maybe the reflected light here is way too strong. I can work a little bit that area, just not to make it so light in another layer, just in case, and being aware that now I don't have the marquee, so if I paint here it's gonna paint over that, so I have to be careful. I should have checked that before, but you know, time's running, so so yeah, not sure if it looks better or worse now. I think I like it better. Okay, so yeah, I want to erase probably everything that is past the boundaries. This is just, you know, because I'm doing it afterwards. Should have done it before. Once you have your sphere perfect, you can go for the shadow. And if anything you need to touch is the edges, and that's about it. Okay. Let's do the background now. That's pretty good. It's not perfect because, I've been doing it like I've been doing it, but I want to show you the one I did back in the day. It was done in Photoshop, and it took me a little bit more time than this one, but it has, I think, more or less these concepts really well rendered out. So you can see here the highlight. This is slightly lighter than this one. This is slightly darker than this one. So the contrast and the dramatism makes it look more like a sphere maybe, and the same for the shadow. But it was done exactly with these principles. Okay, so looking forward to see your steers, my dears.